Greeting you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. I got my dear brother Spence right here, frequency gardening and so much more than that. But yeah, Spence is a dear brother of mine. This podcast kind of came out of the blue. Like it just happened. Here we are. Like I
Here we
was
are. Let's
chilling,
go.
got out of a meditation today, and yeah, just had a regular day, and this happened to be part of the day. So welcome in, Brother Spence. And do you want to share a little bit about who you are? And then we'll get into the podcast.
Sweet. Well, appreciate you for having me. Shout out to all the people on YouTube's and wherever else this is landing. I know one of the things I've always appreciated about you, Stephen, is your commitment to your YouTubes and the tribe and the community and sharing, teaching. I've got a lot of value from you both as like a human being, someone I've spent actual time with, created with, and of course, the beautiful and consistent, like massive consistency with your flow of these videos. So definitely recommend anyone who is listening, if you're finding us for the first time, maybe coming from my frequency gardening revolution world, hit subscribe on our brother's stuff here, follow along, deep dive. Yeah, he's going to be coming in as a guest expert this year in our frequency gardening design certification at some point. You know him, you love him, Scalar Tech Master right here. So shout out to you for having me, dear brother, and who I am. Whew, I think this is the ever-changing condition as we go back and forth all the time on Instagram. I think it is the I am. If you want to search around for that in Steven's archives here, there's lots of good material on it. But right now, what is calling me forward on my own mission is a realization that humanity has become disconnected from the beautiful Earth experience. We are soul travelers, you could call us aspects of some divine God creator consciousness here having a beautiful experience in what we call the earth realm. And there's been a time and a period of darkness that we've gone through, the ancient Vedics of modern day India, right? Called it the Kali Yuga, the end of the Mayan prophecy, right? There's a big time of changes upon us where we're moving from this dark, control, hyper materialistic state of being as collectively and individually into what Stephen will sometimes refer to as the new earth or the new timeline. And we're in this transitionary state known as the great times of transition. And for me, I am noticing that we are seeing environmental degradation like never before. How food was grown, how we interact with our environment, with the earth realm, the game, the simulation, what you ever want to say is changing rapidly. And anyone who wants to continue to not only survive, but thrive in these coming linear decades has to make sure that the food piece is key. And more than that, that the ecosystem that we're actually living that gives life to the soul experiences of human beings is abundant and is flourishing, is taken care of. And we've gotten so far away from that in the Kali Yuga that we've pillaged the forest. We've destroyed the literal life force, the essence, Mother Gaia, that gives birth to us being able to enjoy these beautiful human bodies. And now we're coming back into a remembrance of what it was like to be guardians and stewards. And this is a big transition. And essentially, what I'm here to do and what I'm here to say at Frequency Gardening, our Frequency Gardening Revolution, is we must restore crystal clear two-way communication with this intelligence that is nature if we want to thrive during these times, if we want food sovereignty, if we want abundance, if we want peace of mind. Having those the communication and the ability to take said communication from nature and build our gardens, build our homesteads, create our communities. When we do this, anything is possible. So I'm an experimenter, as you know. That's why you and I get along so well, Stephen, is we try things, we learn things, we play, we tune back into the masters who've come before us, we build upon their ideas. We get out into nature and we learn from the beautiful mother. We learn from the heavens, the cosmos, the all the different layers. And it's an exciting time, as you and I always talk about. There's no doubt the light has won, love has won. As we know about Neville, it is done, we have won. It is done, I have won. We're seeing the linear playing out of the end of the Kali Yuga, with all of its intensity, its geopolitics, its control, its destruction of the environment, the stuff we can't talk about that they're spraying in the sky. But hallelujah that we are having these conversations right now, that people are commenting in resonance with this right now. My inbox is full. People are here to make the change. There are so many leaders, visionaries who are, as we talk about with Neville, are imagining this new earth, imagining how you want to live, whether it's in conscious community with your kids running free in beautiful environments, whatever that is. People are imagining it. And now, as Neville said, the bridge of incidences, the bridge of occurrences is incidences, right? Bridge of incidences is happening very, very quickly because of these times. So communities are going up. People are awakening. People are starting to build their frequency gardenings. People are seeing that we have to come up with solutions for the toxicity. So all that is to say, it's a very exciting time to me. I'm happy to be walking alongside everyone who sees it and feels it and wants to create and live this new way. Obviously, as we talk about New Earth now in this moment, but also what is out there in the expansion of creation, the future that we want to see reflected in front of us.
Mm, yes, brother. Yeah, and the new earth starts within, right? And as we know, as within, so without.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big thing of, it's such an intense time where there's like if you're tuned in to the truth of reality, you will recognize the intensity of this moment and
Mm.
no time off. Personally, I don't take time off. Like the only time off I took was yesterday where I literally made a salad and I watched like one of my bros, Trent the Traveler, I watched him like going around Iceland. And that for
Nice.
me was like my time to like just just to yeah, like actually chill because I could show you my bookshelf here, but it's like it's nonstop. We need to transcend
Oh
the
yeah, yeah.
ego mind. We need to learn about the ego. We need to study Dr. Joe Dispenza. We need to be learning about what it is to be a pure human. You know what I mean? We need to be taking notes. We need to be studying books like the I Am discourses. We need to be learning about self-healing. We need to
Boom.
be learning about quantum DNA healing. We need to
Yep.
be learning about the law of attention,
Mm-hmm.
learning about the solutions. We need to be, and I could go on and on.
I love how I just yeah, you could go on. I love how you just pulled out Slim Sperling's universe there, and I think your like AI camera tracked you. Like what right down to like zoomed in. All the good people watching this would have seen that, and you got your nice like quantum ring tensor
Uh,
stack there.
oh, it's
So feel
yeah.
like there was a little Slim coming through there.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. And so what Spence is saying, just reflecting off of this, is that man, like it's game time. Like we okay. There's so many places we can go with this podcast, but all I'm gonna say
So
for
this Earth realm, brother.
is it's game time in the sense of knowing that, as Spence said, the I am presence, which is consciousness, which is awareness, that is the cause, that is the first principle of what we are. And so we need to first get that down before we start anywhere. We need to know, who am I? Because if we're
Mm-hmm.
not looking from the truth, we're going to be looking from illusion. It's really simple. There's a negative polarity and there's a positive polarity. There's the pathway of service to self, of manipulation, control, enslavement, domination, and hatred and violence and war and literally siphoning the attention of the God. Ye are gods. We are
Mm-hmm.
all
Mm-hmm.
gods. And gods are creators. We are made in the image of the creator, and we are meant to be creator beings. And what the negative polarity does is it siphons our attention from being creators and following the one rule, the golden rule, which is the law of one, which is the law of love, which is what Jesus Christ came to teach. And everybody listening, I would imagine that you are on the positive polarity, unless you're a little spy. And if you are a spy, I love you. I love you if you're listening, because love is the only answer. Love is the
Oh,
answer.
it's for you, you little spy.
we we've already right, we've already won because an illusion is an illusion. But I
Yeah.
say all this because there's two ways, right? And the both are necessary at this density and dimension in creation. At some point, we, I don't remember, but what I feel in my bones is at some point the polarities in a sense like fully dissolve and we fully merge back with our higher
Hmm.
self. But
Hmm.
at the same time, everything is happening now. So we already exist in the future now. And we've already walked the path as our higher self. We are just experiencing this fractal of this one experience as Stephen or as Spence. And here we are supporting the new Earth, which is to first find that new Earth, which I've been tapping into is a new potential. All you have
Hmm.
to do to tune into the new Earth is tune into a new thought because everything, it's consciousness, it's spirit, and then it's mind, and then it's body, the Holy Trinity. So we need to be vigilant over what thoughts we are entertaining in
Oh,
the field and what thoughts we are calling forth because creation begins when we start to think. When we're thinking, and then our feelings, our emotions will then, it's a feedback loop and it's constantly thinking, feeling, and we're creating, we are qualifying this pure electronic energy that's pouring into our being in thought and in feeling, and each being can determine for themselves if you are entertaining the new earth within your own mind or you're entertaining hatred, separation, slavery. And the thing is about this, before we move on, is the universe is inherently benevolent and loving.
hmm. Hmm.
So it's really hard to walk the path of the negative polarity. So I give these beings a lot of credit. But because the universe is like wanting us to follow the path of Christ, follow the path of love, of the positive polarity, which is service to others and service to the whole. So we have the whole in our heart as we go about. And this is what I have dedicated my life to, which has been about a decade when I got out of addiction for a few years, which was a great catalyst. It was
Hmm.
not a bad thing. It was great that I experienced that in this incarnation, in this veil of forgetting, because I grew up in Babylon and I grew up in the Matrix, and nobody told me that, Stephen, ye are God. You
Hmm.
the God, the
Hmm.
like as I mean the God is within us, not I am this ultimate supreme creator. And it's like, no, I know in my heart that there is a life principle that is beating my heart and
Hmm.
allowing this. That's what God is. God is simply love. And we have to all admit that we are made of this. And once we know that, we immediately get in alignment with our soul's mission, which is why we actually came here and in fact wrote the script before we came here. And now we're just acting out what we wrote because this is, in a sense, a cosmic video game. And we need to realize these truths, these metaphysical truths, before we go on with our day any longer. Because if you don't know who I am or who you are or who we are, then we're starting from the wrong position. So I always like to bring us right back to source. And all you have to do is say, I am. And notice what remains. Notice that you exist without a thought. And this is what every single master teacher will teach. And I think it's the most important to get before we get into where we're going in the podcast, which is reality creation and like tensor, scalar tech, like that all comes after. So we need to understand this. And if you're watching, you obviously have your own, your own understanding, even if it's just a little bit, there's a spark in you. But I am telling you, brother and sister, that you are pure unconditional love. Effortlessly, you are worthy because you exist, not because of what you do or what you put out, or none of that is relevant in the sense of your relevance is in your own beingness, your own heart. So I just wanted to, tap in about that and really, yeah, just set the tone for like, man, we are here just humble students of life, and we are doing our best, Spence and I, to share this love. And that's really what it comes down to is love and unification and unity consciousness. And when we talk about going from Kali Yuga into the Golden Age, we're talking about the precession of the equinoxes. We're talking about the cosmic clock. We're
Hmm.
talking about cycles of time where time is actually cyclical, and it's like a spiral, and we're constantly like just like the breath, like the in and the out and the infinity. It's just that's the way creation is designed, the toroidal field, which we'll obviously get into. But um, yeah, it's really important to, understand some of the metaphysics of life. And before I pass it to you, Spence, is I just want to sum it up in the golden rule, as I said. All you have to do is love God with all your heart and then love thy neighbor as thyself. And that's all that we're being asked of. If you're the cook in the community, if you're the gardener in the community, if you're the whatever role we take in our communities, as long as we abide by natural law, then we are in harmony with the truth. And that is how the new earth will actually come to be as little pockets of us start to embody this frequency in ourself. It's very grassroots, and then we connect just like Spence and I. Like when I first met Spence, I'm like, this guy's my bro for good, forever, because we just naturally are walking that same path. And we just knew, and there was an immediate resonance and connection. And since then, we've been close, and it's just no question that, we're meant to be in each other's lives in this good way. So just
Hmm.
want to thank you, bro, for also being on. And yeah, maybe I want to start with what an intro, eh?
Oh yeah.
I want
Let us know what's resonating in here. Fire that in the comments. If you're someone who's, maybe you're watching on this podcast platform, hit subscribe. Steven
Mm,
has lots of great flows, and yeah, that was a really good intro. That's the
yeah.
thing I love about our conversations is like we go back and forth on Insta, and then we'll finally tee up a call in amongst our flows and creations. And yeah, then I feel like I get my own private podcast sometimes where I'm just lying on my mat doing some block therapy or stretching or whatever and just enjoying your beautiful flows.
Mm.
Um, it's nice to be able to capture this though for all the good people in the community out there.
Yeah, I'm really happy that this is going on right now. Um, so I want to ask you, like, I like to go into the story a little bit, the backstory
Hmm.
from
Hmm.
however back you want to go. I usually ask about some sort of awakening. We'll put it in that.
Oh yeah.
What happened for
I had
you?
one of those.
How how did you get to where you are now as having this role as being, this that a lot of people know about and are learning about electroculture and
Hmm. Hmm.
living the new earth. Where did this all start for you?
Well, started somewhere beyond this perception realm, as we well know.
Hmm,
Um, I do feel as many of us have walked different human skin suits over time in different eras and civilizations and whatnot. But this one, yeah, so I incarnated in what we would call Western Canada in today's terminology and in a big city, which was very interesting because my soul is not one with the big cities, and I think Stephen can appreciate that from you if you follow along his journey. And I was really young in this city, and I felt like upon reflection and past life experience, like regressions and further learning on my own healing journey that uh, you might call it an empath, you might call it a sensitive, whatever it was. Most kids have it. I had it, and it got turned off because we know that nature gives us all these gifts, but nurture, that nature and nurture phrase, nurture is a huge component as well, and it forms our programs, our judgments, the coloring that the veil gets colored by your experiences, and it got turned off. And I would say I went for the middle class, middle class, whatever that means, mainstream suburban thing in through the 90s, growing up, and it was an experience. It was a weird experience. It was an interesting experience. It was a great experience. There was nothing to be wronged, as I wronged it for a long time. And there was a lot of because I was so sensitive to the earth, I always took on a lot of pain, and I would take on the weight of the world upon my shoulders of like, why are we killing each other? Why are we destroying the land? Like, why are we polluting? And I had these really like big, for at the time, seemingly heavy questions for me weighed. And a common way that young teenager boys would kind of express that anger is essentially the opposite of what I was doing, right? Like a lot of people would express that through fights or through, like really getting that masculine energy expressed and outwards. I internalized it all.
Mm.
I internalized it all, and I built a wall around my heart that was pure, like like pure iron, right? Like we talk about us putting on the suits of armor, the old knight suits. It was like that, right? And I followed what if I thought was a good path that my parents told me to do, which was to go to university. So I went to university. I did a big business school thing. Um, and other than like snowboarding and things like that, like I was very disconnected from my true senses in nature, even though I loved it. And as I started to come out of university, I started feeling what I call the call of the wild. And
Mm.
this was where I first started regaining what I had when I was very, very young. And as a 20, 21-year-old man, it came out as like a big energy. So I started hiking. I started going on 20-day backpacking trips, like by myself. I started like bagging peaks and like tallying how many thousands of feet I was doing every weekend, et cetera, and just loving it, like getting back into like camping long term and with nature. And I was reigniting like a deep desire of like cold dipping. So I was studying Wim Hof, and while still simultaneously balancing coming out of university, working at big corporations, weekend warrioring like crazy, and the soul sucking was kind of there. And I had this moment where I was working up north at a big like fly in, fly out in the middle of the tundra of Canada, oil production facility, just doing some like total bullshit. This is like wow. And I saw one of the guys there who would have been like the path that I was on, like 15 years down. I was like, I don't like that. That guy doesn't have a good life. Like, I don't really like that. And it was a good, sharp moment where I went and then turned in my resume. I'm like, or turned in my notice, like, I'm out of here. I'll give you one more shift, like, clean with good energy. And I just left. And then I've had all this time in my hands, and fortunately, working a job like that, I had a little bit of savings built up, not a lot, but I had my car, and um, I just went on a rite of passage by myself across the United States of America,
Wow.
and just did it, man. Like fully just lived out of my car. I used this site called couch surfing. So I met so many amazing people. I just went on hikes alone in like America. I was in some American wildernesses. Like there's not much wilderness in American. Like I hit up some of these like amazing remaining wildernesses with no one around. Like just having like crazy experiences and just living. And like I didn't spend a lot of times in cities, but I also like did kind of get some of that experience as I transited through. And it was like my first big awakening. And what I realized going back is how human souls have relationship with land. And many of us have relationship with land from past incarnations, past civilizations, Atlantis, Lemuria, but also ones that we know about, right? So I had clearly been on these lands before in what we would call the United States of America. Could say whatever. I've tapped into many sacred timeline shifts that aren't really my place to share here and there, but like sacred moments where you were on that land, there was some type of like connection, contract, or whatever you were. And at this time, I didn't really know this quite like I do now, but my soul knew it. The God in me knew it. So I kept going to all these different spots and having crazy experiences. And as young men will tend to do when we have rites of passage, I realized later on that this was my own rite of passage. I actually faced off with death several times, where there were moments where I'm like, holy fuck, nobody knows where I am. This, like, I have to take this really seriously. Like, this is intense, right? Like, being stalked by a bear in your tent at night and you're deep in the middle of America. I'm like, holy shit, like, nobody's coming to get me. Like, I gotta scare this bear off. Like, dealing with, kind of on your edge stuff, right? Like adrenaline, but like flow state things. And yeah, many beautiful experiences of that. But that was the first time I started sensing a little more. But then the lure of programming came back, right? Oh, I got to get some money. I got to do this. So I made a deal with myself and I said, okay, here's what I'll do. I always have had a deep connection to my ancestral roots. I've always found it very interesting what we would call First People, indigenous. I know that term is like very out there. But I've always felt like when I go to a land, like who are the people that walk this land? Who are the people that may still be within some of that energy that walk these lands, these different tribes and bands? And we've all had them. We've all lived in these different times. But I was always curious about that. Like I loved it even in the colonizer education system that I was put through. I thought it was great when we got to like have an indigenous elder come in and like play their drum and share some of the stories. I was having profound experiences in a government, basically a government education center, right? Having seen that and getting out on the land, and I was fortunate enough to travel to some very sacred sites around the place that I grew up in, where there was like buffalo jumps and medicine wheels, and I've been very connected to that area. Um, I had grown up in. So I said, okay, well, why don't I get into indigenous relations, right? That's a business job. It'll be interesting. Got into that and really just witnessed the power struggles and the dynamics and the marginalization um, of Indigenous First Nation people. And there's a whole blanket of that within Canada. Like, I'm not going to go into that, but like, I've seen the Northern Reserves. Like, I've seen how the chiefs have the power play. I've seen how they work government, private sector relationships without really, quote unquote, benefiting their people, right? Air quotation marks, because we're all the human people. But just it seems so corrupt. And when I pulled back the veil, I was like, oh man, I'm on the 37th floor of a huge oil and gas building. And I had another epiphany moment where I'm like, holy crow, like this is not how I want to live my life. Like I don't not need to get on a plane and drive to another reserve to sit there while I watch someone else like negotiate rights to do something that's like destroying the earth and that people are getting, it's just no. And it's like, it's just no, it just said it. So I had that moment, turning my letter again. Here we go. Sometimes we need to keep rolling the same lessons, and a lot of expectation and pressure that I had to deal with, right? Like my family didn't get what I was doing. My friends didn't get what I was doing. Um, and I just basically got rid of everything and I got myself a plane ticket down to um, the end of South America. Like, I mean, the end, like the very far, like, look at that little tip at the end. That's where I went and had my next rite of passage pilgrimage.
Mm.
And I took I went to some of these, it was like on kind of on the coast, and I found a trail that was somewhat hiked, like you could hire guides to do it. And I started on that trail and then I just cut off that trail and I just literally walked into valleys, like untouched, super harsh, wet valleys. And I set up my tent and I had like 2, 3 weeks worth of rice, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of pepper. Like that's all I could get from these tiny little stores there that I would actually store. And I just went in with nature. I was not sure what my purpose was. I was lost. I was traumatized. I had all this identity with this character of Spencer. Um, and it was a rite of passage because I had near death experiences. I cried randomly. I tested myself. I went to places where I doubt a human had ever crawled into those little spaces, and I just sat
Mm.
and I just opened that two-way communication with nature, which is at the bedrock of all of my work on this planet. Like I'm here to let you know that you can restore two-way communication with nature and experience the God states of that relationship with, which is also an aspect creation of God, but the consciousness, the sentient nature that we call nature, Gaia, or whatever. And of course, I bring that back to like, yeah, it's how you grow food and do less things. But at this time, I hadn't really even started growing gardens that much, other than here and there, a little bit, and plus like with my family in the backyard and stuff growing up, like I mucked around in the garden, whatnot. So I went through this, and I went through this big thing, and then it kind of sparked that I was meant to be an entrepreneur. Like I kind of dabbled with entrepreneurship. I had a clothing company. I was figuring out how to build movements online on Instagram before Instagram really popped off, and that was amazing. But I was like, how can I actually like make money? So lo and behold, I thought it'd be a great idea. Let's become a beekeeper. So I'm like, let's go into nature. So I got a bunch of beehives and partnered with this sister of mine, and we created this business and sold honey. And then it kind of got really started getting me into like, oh, like livestock and growing food and all of these different things. And then all our bees died. We had a freaking period, so we lost all of our bees, all like, oh, it was brutal, like hundreds of thousands over the all over the snow in the winter.
Wow.
And I learned so much from that. And then from there, I was like, I basically said I got to start planting gardens, travel the world, see what's here, and continue to walk the path, continue to go to new lands, lived for extended periods of time in a few different places. And it all just kept piecing together, learning about the land and growing food kept coming back. And this this just ancestral memory of, okay, this is something that know intimately. People ask me like, how can I help someone create a design on the land that I've never been to very quickly? It's because I just see it. Like I walk out to a piece of land, talk to the clients who hire me, sometimes online, virtual, and I just go in remote dowsing kind of thing, sometimes on the land, and it just comes very easily. Even though I've been growing food for over a decade, I've been supporting people more intentionally with their lands and designs, teaching, sharing for the last few years. And I just get it and it makes sense. And I'm very confident that this for me is how I can contribute to a community. We bring it back to communities. We bring it back to the world. Like, what are the roles you're here to play? Well, right now it's sharing this information, knowledge, and wisdom that's coming through. It's helping people tap back into that two-way connection and then applying it to their gardens so they can create food abundance and deal with all the crazy chems and all of that stuff at this transitional time. And that feels really good to me. When I'm in my flow state around it, you're dropping into the God state. You're fully knowing that you're here. This is what you're bringing forth. You're going to create it. Nothing is ever going to stop me except when I exit this body from creating that relationship with nature and telling other people and sharing this that you can bring this back in. It's such a beautiful space to be in because like so many people come to me that are like super advanced people. Like, I mean, like these guys have been doing like people come to you, they've been doing permaculture for 20 years, biodynamics guys 25 years, like studying all of the and new and people who are just getting started. I have this full spectrum of people who are like fully, I would call almost borderline experts who are coming to me, plus all of these people at varying degrees, some not with a garden, some not. And asking like, what is this energy of this frequency gardening revolution, Spence? I feel it, and I'm here to just I'm an experimenter, I'm a sharer, I'm a guide. And I can, when they come into my programs, like the Frequency Guard Design Certification, people have insane activations. It's not about like, oh, I'm not about like, oh, what technique you're going to do, what electroculture rod you're going to do. I'm about how do you have a crystal clear two-way communication with nature, with all of your five senses and your higher psychic senses open? So it's a partnership. And then instead of imposing, judging, assuming from just maybe even an idea in your mind, like let's build it like this. Hey, I thought about this great grow dome idea. Let's put it out there. I'm saying, well, what if nature would show you this divine intelligence, this God intelligence would just tell you what is the best thing to do. You're still the person who's hardening in the fact. You're still the one building the dome, putting the trees in or whatever. But so many people that I know who are coming to me being like, why are my systems not working and thriving as much as before? How can we move through the spraying? How can we move through the toxicity? How can we move through not being able to go to a store and bring soil in or something, right? And I keep saying it's the two-way communication with Mother Nature, which I started to remember. I had it when I was a kid. I started to remember it as the story that I've just shared with you. And now, like you said, we're all systems flow. We have the DNA level of evolution, like you were talking about, the literal etheric energy that's entering the Earth realm right now through solar flares, right? Like we're tracking this with NASA and all that. This energy, this cosmic movement and place we're in is it's activating all of us. It's activating me to go deeper into frequency gardening. It's supporting it's supporting all humans to step into what they want to step into. So I don't know if that answered your question. That was a flow. I haven't shared that stuff for a while, but thanks for listening. If you want to let me know what there's in
Oh
there, I'm
yeah,
happy to go
a lot
deeper.
came up, brother. Thank you for sharing that. I haven't heard a lot of that, and we just never tapped in about that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's divine. I man, there's a few places I want to go. We'll get a little bit more technical. But yeah, I just wanted to reflect on that last thing Spence
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
saying was about the shift in frequency in Mama Gaia. And
Mm.
she herself, if anybody's listening, I wouldn't take this book for absolute literal, um,
Great starting point.
yeah,
Great
like,
starting point.
I'm not saying this is the truth. Like, I'm not shoving it in your face, but I'm like, this book has metaphysical information that you may check in with your heart space to see what feels right for you. So this is the
It's
law
as
of
relevant as the Bible, in my opinion. Like I find many codes in the Bible and I
yeah.
find
And
many codes in there, and I take it all with a grain of salt and feel in my heart what it is. But
we're
Law of
always
One has a lot of
we're
good
always
things.
creating, and this one as well, A
That's a good
Course
one
in
too.
Miracles. So a dear brother and teacher, Aaron Abke, is one of my great teachers that I fully trust and look up to in the space of teaching and sharing the message. And he has
Not a guru
he's not
in
yeah,
the like
not a
in the
guru.
mainstream sense, like more so in the
Um,
traditional Vedic sense.
this is that book that I was talking about, The Three Beliefs of Ego. And this is Aaron right here. And I share Aaron because he bases his work, his teachings off A Course in Miracles,
Hmm.
The Law of One,
Great
and
crossover.
the I Am discourses, which I'm diving, like this book is absolutely biblical.
Because what's the deal with that one again? The third one there?
Well, it's a channel from Ascended Master Saint Germain, and
Who channeled it?
this guy Guy Ballard in the
Oh, I
in
think I've heard that name
the
before. Yeah.
1930s. It's just
Jeez.
it's a magical
So
script.
much stuff was still coming through in the 1930s, man. And then
Oh yeah.
1933 reset everything, buddy. There was a
Oh, okay.
big change in 1933.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Um,
Whole
anyways,
world shifted.
I share that because in the Law of One and a big part of it is not only understanding what I was talking about earlier about the negative polarity and the positive polarity, but understanding about the densities of consciousness. And we can
Mm,
correlate this to our seven energy centers. So as we raise up in frequency, we're moving from the solar plexus, which is the third density Earth. If we picture an infinite universe with infinite amount of spheres and like the multiverse. Like you can't even fathom the
Which is
infinite.
all the universe at the end of the day, right? The
Yeah, and
multiverse like leads to the oneness universe. Like it's the source point.
exactly, exactly. It's all one. It's all one
The
thing.
multiverse.
Right, right. Um, yeah, so we're going into the like and whether people say it happened at the harmonic convergence or happened in 2012, that doesn't really
Happening right now, buddy.
yeah, doesn't really matter so much. But see, what the earth is now asking of its children is that we
Mm,
all raise up into unity consciousness. And that's why, as I was talking about the intensity, is like all of like the karma is being, in a sense, like sorted out and is being dissolved. So we can now start sort of again from the 0 point, which actually is the heart and the green ray. So the earth is
hmm
its new electromagnetic field. We can picture like a green ray over it. And what this is asking of us is that we tap into that green ray energy in ourself, which is the portal, the center from the illusion of separation into the higher energy centers where we have more like our pineal, our throat, the crown. These are more, this is our spiritual nature. The heart is the portal into our spiritual nature, and the lower energy centers are absolutely beautiful and necessary in this human
I love them. They're
divine.
what ground. There's what grounds us into the reality.
They're incredible, and they just
Essential.
they need to be balanced, and that's where um yeah, a lot of what we say, a lot of our healing or balancing or transmutation has to go on in the lower centers, and it's just about not being so driven by them, but to actually integrate and to understand that that is an aspect of us as well, because when we first wake up to this information, we can get up and like what people say, like, oh, that person's not grounded, or like he's just in the ether or whatever. And that is true in a sense of now bringing that higher consciousness, heaven, right? Heaven, I've been talking a lot about the kingdom of heaven, bringing that
There you go, buddy.
onto, oh,
There we
okay.
go. Be love. Heaven is a daily practice.
Yeah, so bringing the kingdom of heaven, which is the I am, which is love, and bringing that onto earth, and how we expand the kingdom is we
Hmm
share love and the spiritual principle of by giving we receive. And it's this perfect toroidal flow of giving and receiving when you're living in that heart space. So I just wanted to share that real quick before we dive into the next phase here. But the earth, we could say in law of one terms, is in now the fourth density. So we're now being called as, if you want to be a being on earth here, you really have no choice but to be in that heart center. And what we're seeing now being played out on the world stage, which is where the negative polarity, it's like its last days, like as within, so
Yeah.
without. So
Kali Yuga's done, buddy.
it's
It's like the dying throes are happening as
and
around us.
like such a divine being, like Donald Trump, right? Like the fact that
What a
Donald,
player. What a
what a
player.
what a great creation that creator made for us, for a catalyst for a lot of beings. How
For a lot of
they
beings.
are masterminds at what they do, and we, as
Oh
again,
yeah.
we need to clap because Donald Trump gets into a lot of households and takes up the life force and
Mind
steals the life
space.
mind space, which is literally our attention and our
Hmm
intention, and that is our life force, and that is how. But they're trying so hard now and like
It's getting
creating
laughable.
cars
It's
and
actually getting laughable.
oh,
The more that I see it, I'm like,
I
people are
pay
always
no
like, "Well,
attention.
do you think this is going to happen?" I'm like, "Of course it's happening. It was hidden 50 years ago. They didn't need to go on live TV and be like, "Hi, we are the new world order." That just happened with the Canadian Prime Minister. Like they said the freaking words in the speech. Like there there's so much desperation. Like you see the amount of spraying in the skies. I know we can't talk about that stuff on the YouTubes, but just look at the sky. Like this is all last ditch, try to control the human mind, toxify the human body. So that way things are harder. And when things are harder, it reverts people into survival. And when there's survival, we know that the spiritual focus can go down if you don't have food. People are not meditating endlessly, typically. And it's a desperation play at the end of an era that cannot be shift. Like there's no, like I keep saying, that they're not altering the forces here. Like the actual energy that is shifting in the cosmic cycle is not getting stopped by a little bit of
Right.
spraying in the air and a little bit of like frequency, high altitude balloons, satellites trying to do their thing. Like humans are infinitely powerful beings. Nature is infinitely strong, and we've waged war on her, waged war on her, waged war on her. Now she's getting lit up with all this energy, just as we are on the DNA level, just as all the plants are. Yeah, sure, maybe if we're saying a couple linear years might be intense as that shifts, but like how glorious is it on the other side? And that's what you imagine, and that's what you live today. And the more people that live this today, we know the 100th monkey effect, right? People all over connecting. People that create the internet, right? Well, the attempt to be one of the biggest control tools ever has completely backfired. Like
Right.
people are connecting beyond ever before about things that matter to them.
Mm,
Yeah, sure, it has a dark side, but the reality is it's been overtaken by the light a long time ago.
mm,
Everyone's like, AI, it's going to destroy the world. I'm like, what if this was like, if just a tool to help people realize the potential? And like, AI is going to be leveraged to help repair. Like, we're
mm.
not imagining some like, we all got chips, timeline, control, blah, 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 digital D. They're trying so hard with all this stuff. It's just going to be a tool to help me crunch calculations on how much trees do I need to estimate here and help me get a plan in place to rebuild the forest out back because I don't want to manually do it on paper. I want to be out taking the action. It's a tool that's getting like blown out of proportion, and I definitely understand it. Nefarious beings working in nefarious way, quantum dimensions, building all these different theories and ideas. And at the end of the day, it's stop giving your power away to it. See it as a tool that is for you to help create. And when you feel like it's getting too much, get your actual bare feet outside. Go take a polar dip. Remember that the
Anna.
ultimately people have been growing food and living in abundance with minimal scarcity long before we had little chat GPT machines and all this. Like let's take it back to what really matters. Like getting outside, growing food, being good to your neighbors, doing the best that you can to spread abundance. And yeah, there's so many people waking up. Like we already have the 100th monkey effect. It's a done deal.
Mm. Aho. Aho. Thank you, brother. Yes, and there's exactly like at one point, I mean, based on what I do, like I I have there's a solution. We're talking about the solution here. And the creator would not make a problem without a solution. Just as within as without, our bodies are literal healing, like the intelligence of our bodies, we just weren't taught that. We were taught that disease is a real thing. No, it's we got here and literally the negative polarity they flip things on purpose where it's like the symptomology in your body is your body trying to heal itself. There's no such thing as a disease.
Yeah.
Disease, and it's like this kind of thinking, like we have to like you wake up and then you're like, oh my God, there's so many layers. But as Spence is saying, the benevolence of the creator is like go sauna. Like go find a sauna, detox that stuff out of your body. Like take your attention off what they're doing because it's like it's the last chance, you know? But you do have to be conscious about yeah, just like uh meditation, like eating as healthy as you can. For now, as we go through the shift, find local farmers, like start your own garden, like get into electroculture, start to make tensor rings, like go sauna, learn about truth right once it happens like you'll just be flooded with the grace of truth. There's so much grace that comes with one realization, and there's so many realizations that just pour forth once you open up that portal. So Oh man, this is wild. We could go for like 5 hours. Okay, let's.
And we do. Wait, just for let's. Why don't we talk about when we were like we actually had met up in person and put in a nice electroculture installation for a good brother of ours, and like yeah, Moonis and I have lots of good collaborations going on. We have people who are interested in us like coming to their land and building some of these systems, which has been great. I love that about you and like how gifted you are with these, with these technologies. And like let's talk about that. Where do you feel these technologies come into this whole piece? Like obviously we're working on the human vessel, we're purifying, we know our mind is infinitely capable, we're creator gods, we're also dealing with all this crazy stuff going on, and we got to actually grow food or harmonize the land or help accelerate the healing of the ecosystem.
Mhm.
How are we doing it with these technologies?
Oh man, great question. Yeah, so it's already going on. Like we can generate coherence within our heart field, but these rings, what they do is they're space holders. I would say is like they're um they're the essence of holistic health because they create a coherent harmonic field of light or life force energy, and literally they they give you vitality. They give you coherence, so the divine intelligence of your body or the garden or the air, which is self-purifying, self-organizing, these rapid heal. Whether it's you throw them in the garden beside a tomato plant, amplify the life force of the soil of the plant, work as
Broken tree
a
branches.
pillar of light so that it's also shooting up into the sky, into the atmosphere. Slim Sperling is who I learned from, and we're really starting a big old revolution with Tensor Tech. And we have a lot of beings that are tapping into this. And Slim Sperling was the man that brought it back because it's rediscovered. And when I first saw Harmonizer in this life, I was like, wowza, like ding, Atlantis, like bing, 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 like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I have to know. I quit the school I went to, which was a holistic health school, and I'm like, this is my answer. Like, I literally went to the school for this. And literally, so it's all about coherence, heart-brain coherence. And as I wear these, I have the knowledge of the cubit lengths, which I chose, which is the Ramu, Viking, or Atlantean
Nice.
cubit and the sacred continent. So these are in harmonic resonance. So these are like picture a collective singing together. We're amplifying the field. So what I see this is doing for me is it's signaling to my nervous system, signaling to my body that it's finally okay to heal. It's okay to detox. It's it's time to go into coherence. And these are tools that obviously with the power of our mind we can do these things. If you tap into Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, nobody there has a tensor ring on their head, but if they did, then they're really just amplifying the healing potentiality of whether they're tapping into meditation. So just to answer your question is, man, there's so many uses starting with yourself, right? And then as you know, I have my got rings here. I'm drinking tea. I put a ring around this because what it's doing is it's expanding my awareness and my consciousness and literally infusing everything with high frequency harmonic scalar energy, chi energy, and basically just making everything in my home, like if there's a plant, we have a ring around it, like it's basically giving to life, and life is giving back to life, and these rings create the life force. And not only the rings, but all the technology that we create. And obviously what I feel with these rings is they're the beginning, and I've always felt like since I've got into it, and I say that as the beginning of the remembrance, that the tensor ring will go down in history for one of the tools that you can make in your own home. You can twist up in your own home. You can go to the local copper store and get the right tools, which you don't need that much. And next thing you know, you just created a portal of light where you can now give this energy out into your community. Like, man, just being here in Gibson's, like, I literally every day I'm just like passing out rings. Like, walk by people, they're just wearing rings now. And like,
Yeah, you live it, man. You're always handing out rings.
yeah, and that's what I do because I feel like it's such a sacred technology based on returning back, as you've been talking about, to the earth, turning back to the truth. And it's it's these are earthly frequencies, right? So there's a field of energy that based on the length that we cut these to, the qubits, which come from ancient sites and pyramids where the ancients knew about frequency healing and harmonics and sacred geometry. Like this is all just coming back now. And now we have this knowledge that we can now apply to our own life and heal ourselves. And then when we're healing ourselves, we're healing the world and we're healing our brothers and sisters and our loved ones and our families and our communities. Pets love that, like pets intuitively sit in the rings here because they feel it. They have that natural sense, as you were talking about. And I could go on and on, but just to simply answer your question about, where to start. And I guess I'm going to reflect that back to you in the sense of what you've been teaching and learn is the same thing, right? Um,
Yep.
for like electroculture, like how would you describe it to somebody that is just like I like to do that, right? Like something simple. Because we can get caught up in the words and all the craziness, but how would you describe it to somebody like you meet at the grocery store? Like what and how does it work?
Yeah, so electroculture to me is the art and science of intentionally harnessing, directing, and concentrating electromagnetic energy into your soils, into your gardens, into your farms in order to see positive changes within the garden or landscape.
Hmm.
Less pests, increased yields, better flavor, more resiliency to the spraying, all these things. We live in a field of energy, a sea of energy.
Hmm.
And there is certain frequency bands, which I just will generally term electromagnetic energy, found all around us. We're bathing in it. And the point of electroculture is to gather that energy, often through, you'll see copper antennas or basalt pyramids or rock towers, etc., to allow these natural, aka nature processes to occur with more ease, with more flow. You can get into the science of it with terms like electroosmosis,
Hmm.
photosynthesis, all of these different terms that we love to label. What electroculture does is it essentially stimulates the soil life by transferring what we would call the positive of main atmospheric energy found above the surface into the ground, creating new gradients because the ground has a general, a negative polarity. Well, by adding the positive in, all kind an electromagnetic process happens, a scientific process happens, an now chemical process happens that allows plants to uptake their nutrients better.
Hmm.
And the cool thing about electroculture is you get all spectrums as it blows up. You get people who want to see the exact science that you would see from a university, all the way to people who are psychically active that can actually see how the minerals, when electroculture is happening, are literally brighter, and the plant's roots become brighter as they interact and uptake the different minerals and trace minerals from an electrified field. It's so exciting to me because it is a true remembering.
Hmm.
I am the first one. I did a history minor when I went to university. I referenced there when I was doing business school, and I lived and believed the Black Death. I lived and believed the Crusades. I lived and believed everything that I have been told. But the more that I've expanded my consciousness, the more that I've realized the phrase "winners" or the controllers write history. And when I first discovered electroculture, it was actually in an 1884 book that I just happened to flip through that I thought was interesting, and there was a little blurb in electroculture, and I was starting to grow food, and like I literally didn't come to it through TikTok or Instagram like many of us do who when they come to the frequency gardening revolution and first hear about it. I found it in a book and I looked at it. And like you said, when you found, Slim or the harmonizer, for me it was a ding, 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 ding light bulb moment, Atlantean kind of energy. So I just started experimenting. In human design, I'm a generator 3-5. So like that three line, and I know that's a grain of salt, but I think human design is an interesting way to kind of study people's perceived identity and soul path. But it's to experiment and try for me, right? Like uh for me, like quote unquote failure is like that's how I get to the end result of it, expanding and sharing. So I just started trialing it. I started basic, right? Sticking copper in the ground. I started applying my two-way communication. And I started to realize that 95% of the stuff that is being shown and taught online with electroculture is only accessing like 0.1% of what electroculture can actually do. The more that I studied history, the more that I realized that the pyramids of Giza are literally electromagnetic transfer stations, right? They transfer cosmic energy and distribute it through the Nile Basin. Like very powerful harmonics, the Mayans, all of this stuff coalesced and wow, there's something here. This is exciting. Then I said, okay, well, what's happened recently? And then I started studying around like the turn of the 19th into the 1900s, pre-World War One. There was tons of this technology everywhere. Australia covered in electroculture devices, running like lines. And this is passive, remember. This is not electric like you need to generate it with water or something. You're harnessing the energy all around us. So people were putting up these towers on poles and then running using the telluric currents, the energy, the magnetic energy that flows from south to north that creates the toroidal. They were aligning these lines of galvanized wire buried 6 inches deep, kilometers across Australia with magnetic north. And on either side of these lines, they were seeing for 8 feet, 10 feet on either side, insane growth against control plots that were only, 50 feet away, same conditions, same climates. And well documented, like undeniable, like signed by like letters with the churches and witnessed, etc. Then in Europe, same thing, right? The devices, one of the most well-known devices, the Christophilou, Justin Christophilou, a beautiful creator who was just like Slim, bringing the gift of abundance to humanity, created and patented this device that was selling around that time for like £6. You
Mm.
can't these devices are hard to make even in today's day. Like you need to have you need to know how to work with metal and machining and stuff, right? One of these devices today could be several $100s. Well, they were proliferating across Europe because people were seeing increase in crops. So, well, what do farmers do? Produce crops. How do they, their livelihood comes from producing more crops. Well, bigger crops, more abundant, healthier soil over time. Now they have more to sell. People are getting healthy. Well, we can't have that. So we know that that was intentionally written out and destroyed. But interestingly enough, before Hitler took Germany into the war. I say that loosely, right? We know there's all kinds of different sides to this history, but the Germans actually reached out to Christophilou and offered him like a crazy amount of money for the patent because they knew that they were going to have to produce a bucket load of food in Germany to supply all of their troops, and he was a pacifist, so he said no.
Mm.
But these technologies have been out and used in the last 150 years. And people have kept it going. There's lots of fringe people, just like people kept biodynamics going, and Rudolf Steiner's were these different things permeated these different because people love to grow food, right? Like you're always going to have a small percentage keeping the flame alive and experimenting. But then, lo and behold, we talked about the great backfiring of their internet strategy. It's no longer fringe. It's electroculture is spread across viral posts. All of these old manuscripts that have been published. You go to Instagram or you go to Amazon or something, look it up. There's so many books from people who are doing their own take on it. And that's the thing I've realized. It's a field of it's like it is gardening. It's part of gardening because what it's why I actually call my brand frequency gardening versus just like I started as learn electroculture. But once you start getting into the electromagnetics of growing with these simple technologies and paying attention to the cosmos and the energy cycles, even a little bit, the moons a little bit, starting to realize that, you know, the currents throw from south to north and you need to line your stuff up. Well, it changes the entire way you will relate to the garden because you start realizing, as Tesla about, you said, you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. You want to know how to grow crazy abundant yields with less effort in harmony with nature. Think and feel in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And this is why here at Frequency Gardening, if you come into our programs, like I mentioned, our Frequency Gardening Design certification, a lot of people come for the electroculture and realize that they're leaving with the restored two-way communication with their higher senses, their human body, which is the greatest, most underrated gardening technology, food sovereignty technology on earth, the power of the fully expanded human body. They realize like electroculture works better, permaculture works better, organic gardening works better. Your cloudbuster systems to keep the stuff off, to protect your garden, they all work infinitely better. That's why it's so foundational that we reestablish that nature connection, that two-way conversation, that partnership, if we want to get really good electroculture. Because don't get me wrong, like electroculture, man, it's so powerful. There's so much, etheric energy you can tap in. This is why people will spin up just little simple rods, not cut to cubits. They don't know if they're wanting to wind clockwise or counterclockwise. They're just putting it, they're intuitively placing in their garden. Sometimes you have insane results, right? What I've since learned is the more that we are shown by nature, like where are the electromagnetic hotspots? How tall should our antennas be? What would be the best thing for this ecosystem? Is it a backyard? Is it a farm? Does nature want you to dig down into the ground and put a 6-inch strip of wire in there? Yes or no? And through technologies like the human body and the study of dowsing and working with the quantum field, we can just get all the answers that would work really well for our land and put them in place. So you can get your 10, 20, 50, 100% yields off of electroculture, but like I see a future where we're seeing 500% increases, 1,000%. Like, I mean, people cultivating 1 acre of land and it going absolutely bananas, not because of the line, not because of the nice tensor ring, not because of the antenna that they followed on some course or just intuitively built or whatnot, but because they actually understand how we as human souls interact with our environment, with our garden, with the harmonics of the land, and then just like Slim was talking about, just like our ancestors knew the ancients, we were tuning and balancing the land. Now, here's the interesting thing, and this is a frequency gardening kind of like let's vision. The world we're moving into, even before breatharianism, where you can just, you're just fueling off prana,
Yep.
ultimately doesn't include electroculture, it doesn't include pyramids, it doesn't include any of this.
Mm.
The where we are going, we don't need it. When we have fully reharmonized and helped Gaia express herself in this next fifth dimensional state of harmony as we play this role as stewards and guardians, we don't need to use copper. We don't need to dig minerals out of the ground
Right.
because the frequency of the ecosystem
Mm.
will do itself. This is why a lot of people who do permaculture and things like that, at the end of the day, permaculture is just good common sense, right? It's applying and looking at how nature works in ecosystems, then doing our best to mimic that and integrate it into an abundant, self-sustaining system, just like Rudolf Steiner, right? You might know him from Waldorf schools, founder of biodynamic farming, the whole idea that the farm is a living sentient consciousness, which we were just expanding to. The entire world is a living sentient consciousness that we can have a two-way conversation with when our human senses are open. And when we see it as a living organism, it will Mama Gaia, this planet wants to nurture us. It goes like, look at if you just go to a jungle that hasn't been disturbed. Like how much fruit is expressing just for the animals alone? Like how many herbs are there? How many things are there? Like it's insane. And we've gotten down the descent and the compaction and the Kali Yuga, and now we get to say, okay, well let's utilize these technologies to the point where we create so much abundance and the harmonics of the earth are flowing so well, I don't need to put an electroculture rod in the ground because it's going to do nothing. The
Mm-hmm.
plant is the electroculture rod. The tree is the electroculture rod at that point. So that's where we're going. I think it's worthwhile experimenting. I definitely think that, as we know with electromagnetics, they can do damage to ecosystems. We know the frequency cell stuff doesn't grow well by cell towers, etc. And while it's not maybe as devastating as having a cell tower near your land and the work that you have to do to kind of blend and synergize that energy, if you just start sticking things willy-nilly, like your likelihood of it being great is okay. Will you have results? More than likely. But a lot of people say electroculture doesn't work because I'm in the comments, right? People, fuck you, Spence. Electroculture doesn't work. Stop being a crazy hippie or whatever, right? Like that kind of stuff. And those are the people that are just, they either haven't tried or they just started sticking rods in the ground. And if you stick rods in the ground and you have a smart meter in your backyard, or you stick a rod in the ground and you haven't thought about the cell tower that's 200 feet away, like these can pull in negative frequencies. In fact, and this is an area of field that I'm just starting to tap into. I haven't got much into it, but electroculture antennas, because it's all a field, can pull in, like, if you have a negative neighbor who's going through a divorce or is like committing some kind of crime or low field next door to you, not only is it pulling in your smart meter, it's pulling in their frequencies. So it works much better in environments that are relatively pure to begin with. And if your environment is maybe having these different lower frequencies or non-native frequencies that may factor in, like you need to intentionally learn how to design your electroculture system to the same level as you doing a permaculture design certification, to the same level as you like knowing how to build a proper greenhouse and function in a greenhouse or studying organic gardening. It's not just let's stick a rod in the ground and hope we get a little bit better. Hope our tomatoes do a little bit better. It truly is an art and a science, and it's just a frontier. And another reason people come to me all the time is, yeah, I'm a teacher student, if you want to call it that, but I truly continue to bring myself back to be like, we're humble before the majesty of God within nature. Like it is, God has created, as us, have created nature to mirror so much for our soul transit and our expression. And when we start and we tune into there, the abundance will spring forth so quickly. It's so much beyond just electroculture, even if it's a great technology we can use.
Mm.
End of electroculture rant.
Wow. It is truly all about abundance. Truly. And that's what I see electroculture as, like just amplifying the abundance that, as Spence is saying, is God has already created. And we are like fishes in a fishbowl because we're coming out of that veil and we're
Mm.
stepping into the truth. And the veil is that we are separate. The veil is that we are uh that there's two things here, but the when we go into the truth, there's one thing, there's one being, there's one consciousness, and that is the consciousness of abundance itself. And when I've been saying recently, I've just been going for walks and like I just take a deep breath and I give thanks. I look around and I just look at all the abundance. There's abundance everywhere. And like lack is literally not even a real thing. It's a figment of
Yeah.
the ego mind. And that we lack anything. That we lack anything in our life is an illusion. And abundance is just it's everything. It's everywhere. It's what God is. So when we accept that we can live these abundant lives, then we can bring these abundant technologies that will just simply amplify what we already know in our hearts. So that
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah, there's nothing like seeing these technologies flowing in your garden, pumping with food, and abundance is the place to give from overflow. Like right now, like people are starting to garden or people are called to food sovereignty. They're wanting to create the baseline for themselves, right? Because people want to make sure that their kids can eat. But when you use these technologies and you remember the human body is the ultimate gardening technology, most underutilized technology, we can create huge levels of overflow in, let's face it, I call it the toxin warfare area. We can't go deep into it. We know they got little filters and stuff for that, but it's a lot of my work is bringing awareness to this. And do I have every single solution when someone comes in and hires me to design a system or like go to their land and build a system for this? No, but I know who does. Mother Nature. And I know that when the landowner or the guardian or the steward or my client or the farmer or the homesteader spends time, studies, right? You were showing your books, gets out there, tries different techniques, works on their different senses, it learns about the possibility of having this two-way conversation. We can create any amount of food and any solution can come through. Like I'm excited about what the kids are bringing through. Like we talked about, we're in the fourth dimension. I say that loosely. It's a blanket statement. You know what I mean? Where it's a linear human projection to try and understand something magnificent, but it's very interesting. And I've read in different places, and it feels relatively true to me. After 2012, no third dimensional soul, no souls are incarnating with third dimensional technology, right? Third dimensional gifts. Every single child that's incarnating right now, as we speak, is in the fourth dimension, prime for the fifth dimension, and many are coming into the fifth dimension with a lot of knowledge. The electrical, you want to talk about electroculture, Tesla knowledge, like that's it's in, it's coming through fully in the kids who remember it from these different past lives. They're coming in. Now we have all these conscious parents who are like, oh, I don't want to grow up and raise my kid exactly the same as how my parents did. I want them on the land. I want them expressing. I don't want them turning off their gifts at 3, 4, or 5 like I had because of it not being understood within the nurture component. So the kids are coming in with this. This is why they go so freaking hard, right? We call them the polarity players. Why they go so hard against kids? They wage warfare against babies with foreign matter technologies and the whole 9 yards because they know that the knowledge that they have coming in is ready to be expressed. And this is why I'm excited because it can't be stopped. There's so many souls coming in born to parents who like genuinely want to nurture this next level of fourth to fifth dimensional human being.
Mhm.
And the parents have paved the way. This is why I acknowledge anyone who's listening to this and even finding just a smattering of truth in it. You're a lineage breaker. Do you think you could play this stuff for the majority of people who came through the boomer era? Absolutely not. It's not, it would be too much for them, but there's so many of us out there now connected on the internet that are hearing these stories, getting glimmers, activating and then going and nurturing the kids. And you don't even have to have a child for this. Just the awareness of the majesty of kids coming through right now with this technology. Maybe you're an aunt, you have a nephew, you have a niece, you have a neighbor who has children, whatever it may be. We're creating the community not only to embody our I am now, but for this future unfolding of what we wish to see within the next generations coming forward. And the more that we allow the children to flourish, the more that imagine you and I, man, if we just had it all the way through, like you're 33 years old, you get to a point where you're 30 or 40, like you're getting into these hugely expanded states of consciousness and everyone benefits if we can hold it, even if it can be a little bit intense because oh yeah, the kids will just make a comment about something and they get it, right? You ever go outside? If you want to have fun, take kids outside, walk around the forest and be like, what do you see? And then just let them tell you what they see. And
Mhm.
they're going to notice things that adults will never see, the adult will never see. You'll start to notice them more as you go through the two-way communication thing, but they'll notice things you didn't think. Then start talking about how, oh, well, what do you see maybe beyond what's in front of it? It's like if there's a tree, what else do you see? Or like trees have auras. Did you know that? Oh yeah, I can see it. It's out to here. Well, how wide is it? They'll put their hand up and show you,
Mhm.
right? Bring the best dowser in the world in. They're gonna measure the same thing with their little spinny stick as the kid who just put their hand up from the tree that hadn't been dimmed off. You
Mhm.
want to talk about coming into harmony with the consciousness of the land, called devas in many, ancient Vedic, the nature spirits. fairies, gnomes, all these different things. Kids see them, right? Like they literally see them. It is not a weird thing at all. It's totally normal. It has just been not normalized and dimmed down. Imagine taking your kid out and they're just like, "Oh, well, what do you feel about the garden today?" This is a great one for all you parents out there who have kids. When you're in your garden, take them out to your garden, and all you want to do is you be the student, let the child be the teacher. Doesn't matter. Let them out, whatever age, and say, "What do you notice in the garden? What do you see right now? What do you feel right now? Tell me about this garden." And then let them take you a walk through your garden. You will learn more in 10 minutes outside than you doing all the meditations that I've done, the opening of the senses, because it's so easy. And this is why I've kind of been hitting on this. I've jumped around a bit on this one, but that idea of bring yourself to the baby state, the pure God state, where you're just so pure and you're not judging. You don't even know what the English language is or whatever language your parents are. You just come into that state and you're truly in that two-way communication. And it's going to give you all the answers to, oh man, maybe there's a storm a coming in 3 days. Like I need to protect my plants and my crops, to, oh, maybe I thought I wanted to put a greenhouse over there, but I don't want to do anymore. That doesn't make sense after the land has spoken to me. A big one I see all the time with permaculture people, and I love it as much, is putting big, huge swales in the landscape, right, to capture the runoff and sink the water. And they're always engineered on contour, which is great. I think these are amazing technologies, but I always ask, is that what is going to create the most abundance on the land? Often it is. Don't get me wrong, it is. But if you're just sometimes Mother Nature might direct you to put water another way for a once in a lifetime 500-year flood that's going to flood down your landscape. Well, why did you build that little section a little different than what you would have done with, a more generalized permaculture approach? Well, I was shown that there will be a time at some point in the future, maybe not in my lifetime, that doing this change within the landscape is going to help prevent all of our food forests downstream from being wiped out. You probably wouldn't have known that if you hadn't gone into that quantum field, if you hadn't gone into that two-way relationship. So it brings so much like power to our design, what we're creating, both the child and coming back into childlike wonder ourself and receiving.
Yes, brother. Perfection. Thank you. So we've been going for an hour and a half. Um, I just need to do one thing real quick. I have laundry at the laundromat. I just need to see when they
Sure.
close. One sec. Okay, they don't close till 6, so we can keep going.
All right.
I was gonna ask you about
Divinity.
Tartaria. And
Okay.
like I don't
And
honestly, bro, I don't know much about it. I didn't drop in so deep on it. I'm aware of like Star
mm-hmm.
Wars and like how
Yep.
a lot of the ideas kind of came from Tartaria, like that specific place
Mm-hmm.
where like
Mm-hmm.
Princess Amidala was living and stuff. Like
Oh
what
yeah.
exactly was Tartaria? I know it's like one civilization that was harnessing the ether energy, but it gets talked about a lot when the topic of electroculture comes in. So
Yep.
I think some
Yep.
people would be
Cool.
open to hearing.
Sure. So there's a number of things that I have discovered within my own trainings, and what I've basically distilled it down to is, let's say, roughly linear time, like 20,000 years or something like that. There were essentially two major civilizations that have been intentionally written out of humanity's history by the control parasites. First of all, humans have been on this land, coming and going in different cycles and seedings for a long time. If you go, you can read about some really deep stuff out there. If you access the Akashic records and like the cycles have been going for so long. Let's just think it like roughly like 20,000 to 100,000 years, just so we can put our mind on it. There's nothing set in stone. Everyone who says they have the dates of these things is absolutely just bullshitting you. I've heard from Chandlers to universities, all of it. Like I've gone there, and I will say I feel like I, from my own experience, have a pretty a baby pulse on it, but I've looked at it. I don't have a locked in view. But what I have realized is there was Atlantis, which was a civilization, maybe a continent in what we would call the modern, Atlantis, right, in the Atlantic Ocean. And then we had Mu, which is typically associated with the Lemurians, and derivative cultures now have come down through Hawaii and Polynesians and stuff. These were both very advanced civilizations that had a fair amount of crossover. You might have heard of, like, referencing like the Garden of Eden and the fall and Adam and stuff. There's some stuff I've read that these were two civilizations that were basically like expanding human consciousness generally around the same time. Lemuria came a little bit more on Mu, but there was a lot of crossover. Lemuria really worked with what I would call the pure nature state. They weren't interested in technology like electroculture because they, like I talk about, live to have the two-way conversation with nature. Psychic gifts off the charts, right? Telekinesis, teleportation, remote viewing among the elders, etc., cultivating a very nature-based way of living. And they did not need to, at their pinnacle, I'm going to say their spiritual pinnacle, which went for thousands and thousands of years before they too fell, advance the technology of the human body. Everyone at their height could soul travel to different stars and stuff like that while still having a body. A lot of etheric energy, right? Masters, master, master. So they lived in essentially like a jungle tropical paradise with all kinds of different things. It was a huge continent, and it strayed all the way into Canada, US, what we call Chile, all the way over through China, etc., doing their thing. Now, Atlantis simultaneously was on their soul expression, and it was as connected to the human body in a lot of ways, but the love of technology and working with physical form in order to work with frequency was prioritized by their civilization. So a lot of pyramid building, right, will trace back to cultures that came from derivatives from Atlantis. And they built, it wasn't just a city, it was a civilization, right? We dumb it down to the lost world of Atlantis under the ocean. It's like, no, this was a crazy civilization that they reset all the information out of. At some point in there, darkness entered and the spiritual aspects began to fall. I've read many accounts of how it is. I have my own theories. I don't think it needs to be talked about extensively. But
What
what
is
does need,
what is
sure.
like one thing that like the dark what like just share about what kind of darkness can come
They
in
they they
such a place?
infiltrated the priest and priestess's caste is what happened. And there's thoughts that it may have been, you might have heard Anunnaki, other beings. I think you could think of them as demons. There's lots of different things. It wasn't one
Yeah.
thing. But you might have heard of the term
Deliberate.
Wetiko, right?
So
Yeah, yeah.
it was
The
deliberate,
It
like
was deliberate. It was an invasion. It was an invasion of the human mind in
got it.
order to enslave. It was an enslavement.
Black
Yeah,
magicians came in and stuff.
exactly. Yeah, and basically, darkness came into Atlantis, infiltrated, and people started working with black magic, weird hybridizations, and the civilization began to fall. There
Got
was a lot of times where Atlanteans during their high period would pilgrimage to Lemuria and maybe even live there. And this is when more and more Atlanteans started coming and interfacing with Lemurians on Mu. Many lived, many mated. The cultures began to mix, even if it was still predominantly a Lemurian energy. But that started adding a bit more densification
Hmm.
into the Lemurian culture. It ultimately culminated with Atlanteans invading and taking over Lemurians under the guise of merging man and machine technology. Many Lemurians were brought back to Atlantis and merged with pigs and all kinds of crazy. Like it's nightmarish. It's very like dark nightmarish stuff when you tap into it. I don't even like to look at it, even though I've seen some of it. It's really kind of it's dark, right? And so
Heard
both
some more
civilizations
expanded to
imploded.
talk about that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Both civilizations imploded. Call it the sinking, whatever. Some say it was overnight, some say it was gradual. However, when you have advanced cultures of that level, with their human capacity turning on, you have lots of beings of light. You have lots of priests and priestesses and farmers and council members who are very advanced that see the darkness. It's just like people right now that see the control narrative of the matrix, right? So they make plans, just like people are building communities and changing locations on the world right now. They made plans and they disseminated those two cultures all of the advanced civilizations that came afterwards. Egypt, Maya, etc. They were all derivatives. And to say that one came from another is a little bit false because there was a lot of strategizing and communication between the two groups in the sense there were many, there were many advanced, you could call it a sect, I don't know, whatever, right? A group where it was Atlantean and Lemurian, right? They've been married, they've been intermarried, they had partnerships, etc. That some went underground from what I've said and may still be there, inner earth, that's a whole thing, but lots disseminated into other areas. You might have heard of the floods, right? They're suspecting that there was types of floods, maybe they were in good locations, etc. And they continued on their path. Simultaneously, the little the black magic and stuff, it didn't go anywhere. It was still infected within people. So naturally, Egypt had spiritual heights. The Maya had spiritual height. Sumeria had spiritual heights. Somewhere in there, there was a lot of mixing. I think it could have been interdimensional. This stuff often is more enslavement. And again, Egypt fell, the Maya fell. All these civilizations met a lot of density as the Kali Yuga got downstepped through time. Tartaria, as we loop around, to me was one of these advanced civilizations, one of the more recent advanced civilizations. I think personally, in my own research, 400, 500 years ago, I think Tartaria was flying. I don't really believe in like the Black Death of the 1300s and how I think a lot of history is faked and rewritten, or at least up to like, let's seriously question why this would be written. And Tartaria was a nation at some point, and I think that they were so advanced that the story of Genghis Khan and the call, all of that whole Mongol horde warriors might not have been fully true. I think that was projected onto Tartari to make them seem bloodthirsty. I think they were very advanced spiritual beings that were living in human form, humans that were super advanced. And somewhere along there, they decided there was some type of reset. People have talked about it as a space invasion. People have talked about it as other groups that were over on another side of the world came over and took them over in some way. And it relegated the technology and the human spirit. And then you can go through, like, if you want to go deep, start looking up like Cabbage Patch Kids, World Fairs, all of the architecture that we know as we've studied more electroculture and frequencies, right? All the bell towers all have the resonators and the mercury to work with the free energy. And they were very pure. Tertiary was very pure at its core. But just like anything, somehow they got, and I say they being us, like I'm not trying to create a wall of separation, but that group of humanity got reset or got infected. And I think it was on a scale of like, so just staggering. This is why you can punch holes. A lot of people who aren't willing to like kind of research you can very easily punch holes in it because it's it's almost hard to believe that we were so close to this level of demonic reset. Like it makes like just the idea of like adrenochrome or something like that seem pale in comparison to what happened. I don't think they had weapons. I think they were so pure that they didn't have weapons. That why would you? If you're in a divine frequency, like if you ever go to when a lot of these buildings, right, were founded, established, they built washrooms into it. There, a lot of these buildings, the churches, the cathedrals, they didn't. And you can find this in historical record. Like they didn't really have washrooms in them because I don't even know if they were needing to cultivate a lot of crops. Like I think, the bells being pounded throughout this, it wasn't to tell time, it was to harmonize the frequency of the populace and the land around them. So I'm not even totally convinced like true Tartarian technology of electroculture was even really necessary. Like I don't think they might have even been excreting a lot of waste, or at least maybe the more advanced ones, but maybe all of them. Something they were fantastically tuned in. And I think the lesson for me in Tartara is to know how quickly in linear time this happened and this changing of the mind control virus can be, to think that this isn't in the long forgotten past. There's
Mm.
remnants of this stuff flowing through the 1700s, the 1800s, a couple hundred years ago into the 1900s. It's And it's cool because people are coming back to it again. Why? Through the internet. It's no longer rare. People can talk and expand and share. And electroculture kind of gets associated with it in many ways. There's a story, Victor Schroberger, you'll know if you've ever studied like water consciousness, Victor comes up, and there's a famous story where he ended up, I believe, meeting a farmer who had served in a war that somewhere in what would be called modern day like Tartaria, and the Tartars are generally associated with like Russia and Mongolia and like the Mongolia and Russia kind of areas. That was the idea where kind of um their empire was. And there's a famous story within the conscious community of Victor having this conversation or with this guy who was a soldier who had actually served over there, and he had met like a bunch of farmers who had told him how and even in there in Tartar, Mongolia, and they would use copper. They were using copper to vortex the waters and put it on their crops. And Victor, being a water genius, right, wrote about this experience in his book. Don't quote me for verbatim. You can find it in his big water book. He talks about it. This to me brought a lot of the whole idea of copper usage into like water and this new way of with electroculture, as well as combining just looking at the designs of the buildings, right? The resonator, the copper roofs, the paramagnetic basalt, using red bricks to store energy, etc. So I think there's a lot of mystery in it. I think anyone who has it, it's just a perspective that they're tapping into. I know from the little bit of parasitical stuff I've witnessed and I see in this world that the darkness will stop at nothing, just as it didn't stop with Atlantis or Lemuria. And that's why, we talk about being grounded and spiritually sound and caring, expanding. It will stop at nothing to try another reset. They're telling us they want to reset, right? COVID, the great reset. Like they literally said it out loud. I just think at this point we're reversing now because of the cosmic cycle. I truly feel that the lowest point of humanity, we've already hit that. Yes, there's war. Yes, there's terror. Yes, there's rape and horrible things happening on, but we're now, like you said, we're spiraling up. We're unraveling the density in this part of the cosmic cycle. Will humanity spiral down again at some point? Maybe. Things work in cosmic cycles, but that's not where I feel we are right now.
Hmm.
I feel like we're at the very beginning of the true spiral. There's a reason why people call it ascension, right? It's like that idea of going up. Again, linear phrases for huge, huge concepts. We can learn a lot from history, though, and I think this is the thing I'll turn it over to you. I just want to kind of hammer this home here. It's not so much what can Tartaria tell us about electroculture, it's what can previous advanced human civilization who have worked with Gaia's energy on this land that have created food abundance for them and themselves actually tell us and teach us and share with us about how we can implement that today. There's no reinventing the wheel here. It's about remembering what was in the past different cycles. And yes, we're updating it for these times, but the principle of how a human soul relates to an ecosystem on Earth, it's no different. It's like this, it's the same as it was there, and it's very exciting. Study what the Maya did with their pyramids and their literal huge food forest crops all through Central America during their height, and what they did with pyramids and Jupiter and the glyphs and aligning the energetics on certain days so pests wouldn't come in a biodiverse jungle. Like read about that. Read about what the Aztecs were doing. Read beyond they used to cut off each other's heads and they were all enslaving and doing all this stuff. Like, yeah, there were aspects of that during the fall, but they too had very advanced points. Read about the ancient Vedics. Read about the different groups from northern Siberia, right? Like crazy abilities to tap in with Mother Nature. It's everywhere, right? It's across every landmass that we currently are here has all of this history and knowledge of how to communicate with nature, how to restore that communication, and then how to use it to create abundance through food, healthy ecosystems, clean water. And that's where I'm most excited about going back into, because they knew about the cosmic cycles. They knew about etheric energy. They knew about how the moon influences growing. They knew about how to influence tides. They knew how to know that a single butterfly flying across you at a certain time of year signaled that that plant on the other side of the valley would be in bloom. They had cracked the matrix when it comes to growing food. And I'm
Wow.
excited to be a part of going back there because it's the expansion of the human soul potential as this divine being that we are. We're just
Mm.
getting started. So
Yeah, and
that's what I think about Tartaria.
oh,
I don't know
dude,
if that's the answer you're looking for
thank
because I
you,
know a
bro.
lot of
Yeah,
people have opinions.
I resonate with all of that. Um, yeah, just that having that as part of your day, like picture like the family, like you wake up with your beloved,
Mm.
your
Hmm.
children are like run. This is New Earth, like this is a day in New Earth. Like
All right, let's hear it.
let's
Let's hear it.
imagine it. Let's imagine it.
All right. I'm tuning in.
And you call forth the presence of God today. You tap into gratitude and you're so healthy and healed that you like, for me, like, you look towards your wife and like, oh,
Mm.
just give her a kiss on the forehead. I love you. I see you as a goddess incarnate. Children are running in. You go to the kitchen, like, oh, just this abundance of your kitchen is just full. And you get something going. It's going, and then you run out to the garden and like just that connection, immediate connection with the earth. The shoes are off. You're connecting, you're smelling it and you look around, you're like, wow. And there's no money. Like money has become obsolete. Like
Yeah.
abundance has shown itself. Because money, I just did this video, like abundance, like we think about money. Of course, money is an aspect of it. But in the new earth, it's like abundance is in love. It's in the fruits of the spirit, the gifts
Hmm.
of the spirit in our connection with our loved ones, our soul expansion, and then all of the abundance that we have, knowing that God and us, God and the family are one, and then we have our community and they have their beautiful families and we
Hmm.
we stay in the ascended state. And yeah, I just want to reflect off what Spence is saying there. It's like it truly is all about abundance and connecting back with the earth. And just as we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, it was that disconnection with the earth, the disconnection with the paramagnetism, the disconnection
Hmm.
every day, like going out and like jumping in the ocean. Like for me, I go every day to the ocean. I sauna and I'll probably do that tonight. And I go cold plunge and I look at the sun and I connect and I thank the crystalline water and I intentionally like know and I'm baptizing myself in this like crystal ocean water. Bro, there's literally dolphins yesterday, just like jumping like the 50 meters away, there's like porpoises. They're just chill. Like, wow, we're already here. Like, New Earth is already here. It's just now like, now as we ascend in consciousness as individuals, we're gonna start to actually like be like, oh, wow, we're already here. And that's kind of what we're doing with our mission is like, I've been tapped into New Earth for a while in my own
You
self.
are New York, buddy. You are
I
New Earth.
and like that's why I'm so it's not even like I don't
Yeah.
wake up and I'm like my mission today is like to get out the good word. Like
Kick ass.
yeah, no, I just chill. I wake up, like I do my thing. I'm like a regular dude. I went to the gym this morning, like I went to a CrossFit session and then I
Wow,
come
nice.
home and like yeah, it's just like I don't know. I just feel called. Like I made a batch of rings for a dear sister and like my day was like I just went and I made them for her. No money was involved. Like I just had a pure intention in my heart. I heard that she was interested in having some tensor tech at her home. So I get lit up and I'm like, "Oh wow, I get to spend my day like in the spirit of love and in abundance and gifting." And I just made her a package, just like when we met, like, bro, everybody listening, Spence sent me like
Oh
just
yeah, that was way back in the day.
that.
That
And
wasn't
then
that long ago, actually, but that
there
was
was
cool.
no like we didn't
Yeah.
say a word about money.
I
Like
think I just asked for your address on Insta. We hadn't even
yeah.
met in person.
And I got this beautiful care package and then I sent Spence out a care package and
That was
yeah, that was
awesome.
just like that's just how we connect in
Hmm.
New
Hmm.
Earth, right? It's a lot of more like bartering and where yes, we know that money is still an aspect, and yes, it's a great tool, but we're not living our life like totally consumed in like survival enslavement state where we're like, oh my God, like I gotta, oh my, like, and that's part of the New Earth is like getting out of that fear frequency, that survival mode, as Spence was saying earlier, and really tapping into creator consciousness. And it's a lot of work. And that's why I just want to say, everybody here listening, like, I know this is a lot of work and it might feel overwhelming, but you are the one, as
Hmm.
Spence was saying, that is breaking these generational literal curses and feeling all the karma, like healing like your grandparents' wounds.
Hmm.
Like it
Hmm.
really is like that. Like healing the DNA, returning the DNA back to its original blueprint as we were actually made to be. So anyways, keep up the good work, family. And yeah, if there's any burning desires, Spence, that you want to share on another topic, we still have some space before I got
Okay.
to go to the laundry mat
Sure.
to pick up my towels. Yeah, if you feel like there's anything else you want to share, we have tons of co-creations coming, as
Yeah.
we said. You can check out our video on this channel here. Um, it was a beautiful weekend we spent. We made this
Hmm.
wild piece,
We
and
went hard.
more of that is to
Vortex.
come. But yeah, we're just here to share the good news.
Yep.
And any
Sure,
more
we shall.
good news that you have before we go?
Well, I think I have two things. Two
Okay.
things. We'll go for like another 15 or something. But
Okay.
um, one of the good news is that I just was like randomly looking back at some of my videos on my feed, just doing a little bit of like seeing how it goes. And I was looking back at the videos that I used to tell the story and like the good word of electroculture and frequency gardening that we filmed on the co-creation we did for one of our brothers' lands when we like I really feel like brought back something that like Slim would be proud of. Like we know now that we still got some refinements, but like we really laid this crazy like the kind of thing that is the only electroculture device you would need in a huge field. Like
Back.
so powerful, man. Like and we now know how to make it even more dialed. And
Hmm.
the good news is like there's literally millions of people who have viewed videos where I've used footage of you and I around that one device. Like that device has been seen by millions
And
and
inspired a lot.
inspired millions.
Oh,
Yeah, and like
who
and the
knows what
cool
people are making now?
well, people are making crazy stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
the thing I like about you is like you are very much like the artisan, right? Like I see like the artisan in you and like getting everything, like totally dialed. And I think it works so well that we create together because I'm like so visionary and I do so many things. I've synthesized so many things, not even just across gardening, but my entire life that I love creating with people like you because like I message Moona all the time, Steven, all the time, just like, oh man, I had a dream. Like I get dreams about technology and then I wake up with a smile on my face, being like, I'm really glad that I know Steven because I sure as shit I'm not going to be able to like bring exactly this copper thing
Right.
to life that I saw crystal clear. Like I like to think of myself as like I'm a code carrier in a lot of way, and this is why I love collaboration so much because we're creating with people like yourself can help me bring because it's all one bring our idea, our ideas, the thing that I dreamed up that I was shown forward into life, and then you get things where I'm very good at expressing with the teaching and the sharing of it. And then now this has been seen by millions and millions of people who have, been inspired. And I'm the first one to say, like, I am not the best technical permaculture designer out there. I know my shit absolutely. It comes to me very naturally. I don't have the biggest, craziest farm. I haven't built the biggest, craziest cloud busters, even though I've done all these things. But the ability to like pull it all together into the coherent ecosystem quickly because let's face it, it's go time. Nature is getting warfared every single day on every part of this world. The climate as we know it, aka is shifting, man-made and just Gaia acknowledging. Like I love how we can pull all this stuff together and use it very quickly and have systems that are actually in harmony with nature to create that abundance. So yeah, I think that that's the good word here is
Yes.
that project has gone amazing. And then the second piece, and I think we can't really, what's a good way to finish the podcast is getting back into imagination and talking about the work and life of Neville Goddard and what he has brought in forward because I had heard of him. Obviously I've been in the online space for a while, like business coaching it back in the day, all this stuff. I've seen the name from The Secret and this kind of like manifestation. But when I first met you, Stephen, like you were really in a Neville Goddard studying phase. I know that you come and you go, and he's like always one of your OGs, just as
Yes.
the yogi teachers of old are. And you were in it, so you got me into it, and it
Yeah.
really landed. And it's still something that is one of the primary things that isn't going away for me ever. And that is the power of the human imagination as these creator gods to imagine something in our mind and then work with the beautiful essence of nature and ourselves and all the individuals around us in order to create it into reality, where it hardens into form,
Mhm.
into fact, aka the beautiful permaculture biodynamic community that you're envisioning or whatever version of that is like you're out there on the land like living it at that point. But it all starts in imagination, and this is why imagination is not cultivated in the government education centers,
Uh,
aka schools.
right.
Since the reset, right, we talk about Tartaria and all that. Tartaria was extremely creative. they
Mhm.
were they were creative beings and they knew their power in that. It's been taken out for worker bees, hyper logic, like masculine, so skewed that it's called, the distorted masculine that's all about production at the expense of the earth and people and living.
Yes.
So, geez, I don't even know where I was going with that. Oh yeah,
Neville, create.
Neville, right? So bringing it back, and what I've realized since the teachings of Neville and practicing it is, if we can create it in imagination and we can feel it, his famous book, Feeling is the Secret, and we can feel it, taking 5 minutes out of your day to
Yeah.
feel that biodynamic, thriving farm, you're actually tapping into what scientists would call string theory, quantum realm, Tastic records, whatever. You're tapping into the already lived experience of that and essentially merging with it, changing the chemistry in your brain and your biofield so it merges. And for that moment, you know it is actually true because you're fully living it. And this is not about, oh, creating some 3D model in your mind of like
Right.
walking through it. It doesn't have to look that way. It may be.
Exactly.
Some people are more visual. Some
Exactly.
people it's felt. Some people it's hearing. But it's about taking the moment to go into that imagination and again and again and again, so that something called, we call it the bridge of incidences, allows it, the quantum field, God, the universe, the invisible hand of greatness, allows it so all the synchronicities and miracles, as we talk about Course in Miracles, all these things happen without us having to do it. It's
Exactly.
the it's the sitting down on a park bench and talking with a stranger who's on the total same wavelength of you and now wants to talk about, oh, can he invest money with you to bring your co-creation to the life? It's about walking down a trail and saying hi to someone who turns out to be some person who has some knowledge that will massively impact your life. Maybe it was just a, oh yeah, what's that book you're reading? I see poking out of your backpack. Oh, it's Neville Goddard. Oh, what's that? Oh, that's cool. And then you going back and using that as your sign and having this huge activation. The more that we imagine, and this is the key that I've been working with too, is it's imagination gets a bad rap where we think of it as daydreaming or we think of it as somehow bypassing, we're now not in the now present moment. Imagination is in the now. What you're doing is using the power of God, the human vessel, to stop, close your eyes, merge with the quantum field, experience that viscerally of being there, and then and if you truly do it, and this is how you know you do it, because you actually lose track of time. You'll
Hmm.
actually go into it and you'll come out of it and it'll felt like, oh man, I was in there in that imagination for a long time. It's like 30 seconds. When you get good, you're fully dropped in, right? This is why I always Neville talks about the SATs, the sleep akin or a state akin to sleep. And this is why he always recommends lying down, right? Where you calm your nervous system and you really relax. The imagination, especially when you're starting, will be more profound. It will be stronger. And then you will live that essence because you've now imprinted onto you. And then all you have to do is take compassionate action. Does this thing that I'm doing right now excite me and bring joy to my life? Yes, great. The bridge of incidents are working like crazy. This is why people who continue to develop and work to cultivate their reality like we do to and sometimes make the hard choices so that way we can wake up and be in and allow these more creative states, not the survival states. You tend to manifest things really quicker. Things show up very, very quickly. And it doesn't always have to be big. I'm going to give an example of something that happened to me last week that was just, I literally just when it happened, I started laughing, and it was in a library in the small town that I'm just outside of. So I walked outside, and I had been up creating whatever, probably messaging Moona, being like, "Hey man, we got to create this. Come down from my office." And my office is it's in a separate area from the house. Like there's I got to walk like 20 feet between the house and where my office is. So I'm walking across, and I look over where I had my wife had like a portable hot tub that didn't work out, so we returned it. But the grass had been dead. It's like kind of dying from, when you put stuff on it, the grass loses its life force anyway. And I've been walking through it many, many times, whatever. I knew it was there, but I just happened to stop at that moment halfway and I saw it and I thought, in my mind's eye, it would be great to have some clover where I could seed that up. And then I didn't even think about it anymore. And right now I don't actually have any clover in my seed supply collection, which is kind of weird. If you can, people stockpile some clover if you live in North America. It's such a handy, it's such a beautiful medicine plant for regenerating land in the right circumstance. So I thought, anyway, great. Anyway, go to town with my wife. Happen to need to go to print off something, and there's a printer in the library. So I go and print it off. And while I'm there, and I had known that this was there, and I've taken seeds from it before, but I had forgotten, it wasn't in my conscious awareness. They have a little seed library there where people drop off seeds. And it's like, take a little baggie of seeds that are grown locally. Like, I love it, right? That's right up my alley. It's like seeds are life. It just brings a smile on my face. But I hadn't been there for a while, so I didn't think about it. Well, lo and behold, while they're printing off my paper, I go and look at the seed library, and it's been restocked because it was having the same two little baggies of seeds the whole time. And there was a perfect film canister, or a pill bottle canister of clover, the kind of clover that grows in this area really well. And it's the perfect amount for that one spot. Will it do more than that one spot? No, it will not. But will it do the entire spot when I put it out there in a couple months' time and create abundance, not just for me, but abundance for the bees that the neighbor has, abundance for the life force that's now moving into that area, abundance for me when I go and stand on it, abundance because I don't have to mow it. You don't have to mow clover. It just keeps going. The insects love it. It will bring more life to that area than what was there. And all I did was seed that momentarily in imagination. Imagine what's possible if you take time before you go to bed. As I said,
Yeah.
state akin to sleep. Before to bed, if you train yourself to be falling asleep, walking through the reality of the biodynamic permaculture garden as if it was visceral and alive, feeling yourself in the moment, signing for the paperwork for you to take possession of this property, feeling yourself playing drums with kids running around and your son, your daughter coming up to you and shaking your hand thing and being like, "Daddy, what we've created is so great." Feel yourself picking up the squash that you had in the moment and like enjoying that. And now remember, then you go take compassionate actions that feels joyful because there is a seemingly illusion
Yes.
of linear time for it to take place. That's what the construct of us, dispenser with the human mind, is conjuring up. But again, it's already been done in the quantum. And by playing in that frequency and merging with that frequency, as Neville says, the bridge of incidence, the synchronicities will take care of it, and it will harden into fact. Let me give you another example here of something I'm working with in real time right now that I know is done in the field,
Mm.
but still is hardening into fact right now. We're in the end of January here. So I had this vision when I was
Moona's coming
meditating.
over. Moona's finally coming over.
Yeah, Moon is coming over. Look for those videos. Subscribe to our socials because we've been working, and him and I are in a very divine flow, and we honor our bodies and what we're doing. And when we come together, it's magical, like fire,
Very
because we're
magical.
fully embodied in it. And a number of things have happened for either of us, where he's coming to this land to co-create, and we got big plans and all this stuff. But so I'm imagining that, of course, and I just simply do. I don't obsess around it because I know it's already done in the field. But another example is I got this download that to be in service, that there's somebody in this greater community area that I'm in that has like a beautiful garden that is not able to, or whether it's from age or time, kids, whatever, like cultivate it to its full potential. And I saw it super viscerally, like had a very visceral body reaction. As I said, I'm very sensitive. Like I had the big full reaction. I thought, oh, okay, this is something that source, me as God, creator, whatever expansion wants to come out, it's meant to happen. And it felt like, oh, okay, it's this year. So then I stopped and said, okay, well, I'm not going to attach to this, but what would that feeling like really like look like? What would it mean to have it in a few months' time where I'm growing my own garden, I have my tree nursery, but I'm actually cultivating and working with someone else's their land and helping create abundance for them. Well, then I just envision like talking with them and, oh, well, we'll go 50-50. You garden and grow it. I'll provide the land and the water, and you can come and go and you can do your experiments. And so, okay, great. Well, Neville talks about going to the end.
Mhm.
So what I would do and I still catch myself because it's a growing, I'm still a baby, I'm still learning. Often we can kind of go halfway. Instead of imagining us on the biodynamic farm having a celebrating abundance, we kind of like imagine getting a phone call saying like the property's available, right? That's not
Right,
the end result.
right.
That's a bridge of incidents. And I was focusing too much on the bridge of incidents. So I make sure before I like even sometimes get in to actually stop and do the imagination to just kind of be like, okay, is this the actual end result? And then relax my nervous system, my senses into that before I go to bed. So right now I have seeded and I have merged with what it would look like for me having 200 squash. If you ever someone, the running joke, if you get to know me, like I'm obsessed with squash and I'm obsessed with pumpkins. Like I literally like have them all around me. I sit on them, even though I grow them myself. I buy ones when I see them. Like I just love it. I don't know, something primal and connection. I don't even really like eating them. I just like having them around me and I like growing them. And yeah, they have some good medicine. But I went to the end of no in November of when I've harvested the squash and I'm laughing at so many squash, giggling like a little child as I'm bringing the squash in the wheelbarrow to give 50% of this 100 squash to the neighbor who's now, or the person who allowed me to co-create with them, uh, with so much abundance that's taken me multiple wheelbarrow trips and laughing at how my whole back of my vehicle is full of squash that has been grown off this land, like pure absolute abundance. And everyone's different, but I always know that I'm hitting it, especially if I'm not like sometimes I'll stop and do it during the day, just tune in during the day to like make sure that that whole essence is coming out, maybe not asleep. But if I actually start giggling or I come out of it and I feel a smile on my face, you feel more expanded. That's because you are now you have become that state.
Mhm.
And if you take time imagining it, just like if you would take time to read, just like you would take time to do your cold water Wim Hof dipping, like I like to do, just like you do your sauna. Well, incorporating this simple practice in will allow that to unfold quicker. Do I imagine it every single day? No, because it's just one tiny little piece of the imaginations that I'm bringing forward. I too am doing the biodynamic farms, going to the end, the wealth that I know is creative and possible. But I seed it from time to time, and then I've taken the compassionate action, which is, well, how could what's a compassionate action piece of that end result seeding of me giggling with the squash? Well, how about putting myself out there? I went and made when as I said, what I was doing when I found the clover is I was printing off a couple of posters and taking compassionate action of putting up the invitation to co-create with me on a couple physical boards. In February, I'm not obsessed about it, but in February, I'll probably put up a Facebook post in, one or two local groups, knowing that the imagination is already done. Like I know that will be happening. It's not even that it's non-negotiable. It's already done. It's felt viscerally, and now I'm allowing that to take place. And people, the more that you want to create in your life, try doing that with the things that matter to you. I think a great tool is think about the top three end results that you want to create. Let's get tactical practical here. Think about the top three end results. Write it on your whiteboard or on your wall or on a piece of paper. The big ones.
Hmm.
For many of us, it's the community or the garden or the house or the property that we really want to be living on. That's often very big for people who would be watching. So maybe it's that one. And then maybe the next one is like the something to do with your mission or your vision or something that you wanted to learn. Case in point, I've been getting back into skateboarding for my inner child, just here and there, like messing around. Well, as part of my body healing, like I'll envision myself riding fluidly, just like an athlete would do, right? They talk about visualization before you win the skateboarding in the Olympics or the X Games or something, right? Pro athletes do it. Just envisioning myself in a joy, carefree, strong, flexible body doing something that maybe I wouldn't be able to do if I dropped it on my mini ramp right now. And just coming into that for a moment. Okay, well, that's important to me. Like I love to see what's possible on a skateboard for me as an expression of who I am as God. Great. So maybe that's on there. Maybe it's maybe you want to get pregnant, right? Maybe you want to get pregnant, and we know that fertility rates are dropping and plummeting because of toxins or whatever. Well, people say they do the detoxes, right? They work on the microplastics, all of that. That's all bridge of incidences. If you go to the end state where you are seeing and viscerally feeling your 18-year-old son graduating from high school or whatever that would be, and how proud you are, and you're hugging him, and he's strong and he's lean and he's got a beautiful girlfriend, and you're all going like literally get into that. Well, naturally, what do you think is going to rearrange in your body and your partner's energetic field and DNA and in the soul contract that you have with the being that you're supposed to brew? You no longer have to stress and carry the burden, because for lack of a better word, like God as you is now carrying, it's not even a burden, but is it rearranging reality so that that happens. You can apply it to anything. So put those three on and practice it for a month. Practice it like you would practice your guitar if you wanted to learn a specific solo. Not endlessly. You're living your life. There's lots of stuff going on. You got gardens, you got kids, you got businesses, you got creations. But as a dedicated moment where you're stopping, because what I've realized is that when you dedicate to imagination, as Neville said, this is prayer. The power of the human mind is what is Christ consciousness when you study Neville. It is the expansion of the loving harmonic within you. So when you stop, you're not sitting there, oh God, please, will you bring me, please heal my brother. No, 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 that's not going to do anything. People have been praying religious style for years and for millennia, and not creating the end result that they want. If you have a family member that's sick, you're not sitting there begging for mercy for them. You're going into your mind's eye and envisioning their next birthday of them walking with health. And you're envisioning the smile on your face and the gratitude, the tears in your eyes as you bring out a beautiful cake that you baked them, and you don't even know if they're going to make it to the next week. Now, of course, because we're all one, this has a lot of influence. Maybe their soul journey is so strong that they are departing, but you know that you are no longer helpless if you see someone who is in suffering. Let's take it back to the Bible. Yeshua, right? Jesus Christ, putting his hands, the blind man seeing, putting his hands over beggars, all of the leprosy gone. It's not that he had magic healing hands. Yes, of course he did. We all do. But what he had was the absolute ability to see the leper and imagine him, as we talk about, see the prostitute, the beaten, raped prostitute, you know what I mean? See him as completely and utterly healed beings. He could hold the frequency of that man who had leprosy 2 years from now, finding a beautiful woman and creating a family with so much help. He could hold that for them. He could hold the imagination of the prostitute who actually start had a synchronistic opportunity that moved her to a newer area where nobody knew her past, and she was able to heal and transmute and have a family of her own and live abundantly, maybe gardening herbs, which was her soul calling. He held that as he looked at them. Lay your hands on me and ye shall be healed, right? Well, that's because he can help hold it. And this is why I'm so excited about imagination for helping restore the earth and our co-creation. Because if your plant is sick, if you put your hands over it, you're not begging the plant that it'll do well. You're imagining that plant with deep roots and totally held. Well, what happens when we know humans compound, where we come together? And I'll put a bow on this because I know you got laundry, but we come together in community, and now we're all holding the frequency of the trees growing abundantly, the toxins being pushed away by the energy that we're creating, the food popping off. Maybe there's pests going. Yet compounding effect. It's 100-monthly effect, also called the Marishi effect. We know that if we all meditate at the same time on certain things, it's compounding. Well, it doesn't have to be that we have to get every single human to meditate at the same time. We can get our entire household to just focus on the garden being abundant, and it's going to get a huge boost because of the power of imagination. So that is my imagination flow. I'll turn it over to you to kind of put a bow on this, brother.
Oh man, that was perfection. I can't say it any better. There's things I would add, but
Mm.
it's it
Oh
was
yeah, it's a study.
it
It's a
was all
study.
said. And on the note of Neville Goddard, anyone listening, I also suggest Dr. Joseph Murphy, who was
Mm.
a great teacher. Apparently, him and Neville learned from the same fellow. That's
Oh, Abdullah.
Dula. Apparently,
Oh,
that's
okay, cool,
people are
cool.
saying. But yeah, check out Dr. Joseph Murphy. Anybody check out Brian Scott's
Yep,
YouTube
he's
channel.
great.
Brian Scott, he literally has read every single Neville, Dr. Joseph Murphy out there. So if you haven't heard of Brian Scott, highly suggest going to his YouTube and tapping into that. Speaking of going and tapping in, where can we find you, dear brother? And yeah, just share with the community what you got going on. And
Sure.
then
Yeah, just writing myself a note there to get some Dr. Joseph. I didn't know they had that connection through Abdullah, who was Neville's one of his teachers and influences. That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. So shouting the good word, shouting the good word, won't tone it down. On Instagram at Frequency Gardening. Any of my handles are on at Frequency Gardening. If you got questions, if you want to jump into what we got, if you want me to come and design your land and do some co-creation, whether online or not, whether you want to learn the restoring the two-way communication, the higher human senses, I got you covered. We're learning this all together. You can find me at frequencygardening.com, has all the links and whatnot. Kicking off a YouTube pretty soon, a little more intentionally with conversations. And I know Brother Steven is going to be on there as well. We're into recording the next season, the Frequency Gardening Revolution, which will be YouTube and podcast. So I'm excited to be having those conscious connections, conversations about all this stuff, food sovereignty, abundance, and peace of mind during these great times of transition. And yeah, that's what I'm up to. If people want to go deeper, my inbox is always open. If people want to have me on, I'm spreading this all the time. When I am online, I'm in the garden a lot too. But yeah, I'm here to co-create. If you want to reach out, I'm more than happy to hear from you.
Mm. Thank you, brother. Yeah, anybody tuning in, we got some co-creations coming. Stay tuned for some a new vlog gonna
Oh
come
yeah,
soon.
restock the Moona, the Steven Spencer
Oh
video
yeah,
archive.
dude. Yeah, that I mean our first one was incredible. I
Oh
didn't
yeah,
even really edit it. I just dropped what I
yeah.
also don't I
You
get
should tag
lazy.
that. You should tag that video. It's a good one for everyone who wants to see that.
Yeah, I
It's
will.
like
I will.
come along with us for the ride.
I'll tag you. I'll tag everything that you got to in
Sweet.
here. And yeah, if you've been along for the ride, this
Thank
was
you. Thank you.
fine. Thank you, brother. Much love. And yeah, we'll tune in soon. The shops are open if you guys want to learn tensor technology. There's courses out. You can go to the YouTube. There's I think almost 50
Get
tutorials.
yourself one of these for Moonas.
You can
These things
go
are awesome.
to the school community is free on the school community. And then also check out all the videos. I love what Spence shared about Neville. That was extremely on point. Yeah, tap into those teachings. And leaving you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We will see y'all soon.
Peace.
Peace.